Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, maybe the Batman won't hit $1 billion. Some of you have been saying that since day one, but I chalked it up to you being vengeful Snyder fans who want to see the Batman fail, even though Matt Reeves and Zack Snyder have been very supportive of each other. Not cool, man. But anyway, and also it had $500 million in just 2 weekends. What's happening? What's happening? I'll tell you what's happening. It's this damn 45-day window. I hate this thing. I mean, I guess from a streaming service perspective, this might work out. I mean, they're going to have to get a lot more transparent with these numbers. And there's a ceiling on streaming services, as Netflix has hit it. We've discussed, I told you, and it's come true. When they reach a peak of subscribers, when there's no one left to subscribe, they're going to come for other ways to get you money, because these are publicly owned companies and they need to show growth. Billions of dollars in revenue just ain't enough for Wall Street. So they're going to squeeze out the money other ways by clamping down on password sharing and doing micro purchases, microtransgressions. It's going to get nuts. It's going to get nuts. All right, so anyway, back to the 45-day window for movies. This week, more than one person told me that at this point, they're just going to wait for Battinson to hit HBO Max on April 19th to see it again. Or even for the first time. That's money on the table. And the international market's a problem. This is not good. Where the Batman has no major markets left to go, by the way. It's playing everywhere it's going to play. And it hit China on Friday. And that's a rare thing in Hollywood these days, to get a Chinese release date, and one somewhat close to your other global release dates. But the Middle Kingdom seems to have turned a blind eye to this new bat signal. The Batman opened with just 12 million in China. Oh, a far cry from Aquaman's... I'm going to talk about COVID in a minute, but that's a far cry from Aquaman's 93.3 million opening back in 2018, which went on to do almost 300 million in China. Oh my God. Without that money, Aquaman would not have been the only DCEU movie to make $1 billion. That was totally thanks to China. Now, as I said, China is suffering from another wave of COVID. Not good there, with almost half of theaters closed and in many major cities. And perhaps new waves of COVID across the globe are what's hurting the Batman's international numbers. Because while the Joker and the Dark Knight, well, it's just Joker. Maybe someday it'll be the Joker. But Joker and the Dark Knight didn't need China to hit $1 billion. They did it without it. But the Batman is trailing behind those movies in other top markets, especially Europe, where again, COVID has resurfaced. Damn it. For those of you outside the United States, how is COVID in your country, and is it once again limiting behavior such as moviegoing? It's also worth pointing out, though, that Spider-Man No Way Home became one of the most successful movies of all time, forget COVID, of all time, during one of the worst COVID outbreaks. In fact, I would say it was the second worst COVID outbreak after the initial one because of the highly contagious Omicron variant. But people just go nuts for Marvel and Spider-Man. All three Spider-Man, by the way. The movie's even still in the top 10 this week, despite being now available for digital purchase since Tuesday. It could still hit 800 million domestic. That's incredible. That's incredible. That's because you got to purchase it if you want to watch it. Sony has no streaming service. I was going to bring that up later, but I think it's pertinent here because there's nowhere you can stream it for no extra cost right now. Interesting. All right, so Sony's like, we don't need a streaming service. Look at all this money that we have. Although, the trick Sony is doing it with non-Spider-Man movies. All right, so anyway. All right, so with the USA always a few weeks behind the rest of the world, especially Europe, when it comes to COVID, we're now kind of freaking out over here that we could see another wave come up any minute, which would really suck for The Lost City, Morbius, Sonic 2. How far into April would a new wave stretch? I still believe Doctor Strange 2 is safe for the first weekend of May, but I gotta tell you, with some of the misogynistic comments that I've been seeing about Wanda, which is for shame, online, I worry that it might not hit $1 billion. I do worry about that. I think that not only is I'm seeing a lot of disrespect for Wanda, which really makes me upset, but also Disney has also committed to the 45-day window to help their own streaming service. So it's not going to be able to play for the months on end that Spider-Man No Way Home did in theaters. All right, so we're going to have, don't worry, I'm going to say more about the 45-day window. But let's go back to the Batman, where while its international numbers aren't where we want them to be, its domestic is really strong. I mean, 300 million puts it in the top 100 domestic films of all time. I'm trying here, the top 100, but it's still lagging in terms of other DC movies. And I don't know if it's going to be able to meet them at the end of its domestic run, which is really frustrating because in its third weekend, it's pacing actually ahead of those movies. So again, I blame the 45-day window. It used to be, you're like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to see this at home, so I better go see it again in theaters. That's not the case anymore. People have it marked on their calendar. I mean, they didn't put out the actual date. It leaked in Deadline, and a number of people online saw it before they deleted the accidental release. But we can count approximately 45 days on the calendar. So we knew that it was coming in 45 days. The big studios are going to need to decide what's more important, their streaming services or the box office records of their big franchises. It's weird because Encanto, a huge hit on Disney Plus, it's like, what is more valuable? If that had been a major hit in theater, I mean, it's doing so well on Disney Plus, and it's moving merch, and the soundtrack is doing incredible. It's one of the selling points for watching the Oscars. The first ever live performance of We Don't Talk About Bruno, not nominated because it wasn't the song they put forward, but it's gonna be there. But anyway, I think some people are going to tune in for that, to be honest with you. Maybe not. Maybe they'll just watch the clip on YouTube the next day. But that's undoubtedly a huge hit for Disney, and it's a streaming hit. So where is the hit the most important? I mean, it's really an interesting question that Hollywood's going to have to answer. Remember, again, as I said, Sony doesn't have a streaming service, so they didn't have to make this Sophie's choice when it came to Spider-Man No Way Home. As for the rest of the top 10, another anime film has made a huge splash at the box office with Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie, thank you very much, opening close to Demon Slayer last year. Demon Slayer went on to do almost 50 million domestic, but with a bit more competition now at the multiplex, we'll see how this latest anime does in the long run. Tom Holland continues to put forward a very lucrative argument that he has become a movie star, as Uncharted is also still doing very well at the box office. 14% drop in its fifth weekend. And again, Spider-Man No Way Home is still in the top 10. It's even in the middle of the pack still, with an equally small drop in its 14th weekend. That's insane! Are you still seeing Spider-Man No Way Home in theaters? If so, why? When you can purchase it for pretty much the same price. Although in some parts of the country, it is cheaper still to see it at the theater. As for the sprinkling of small new movies, as we discussed last week on Movie Math, A24's horror movie X did the best with a little under 5 million. I mean, so, best in terms of this group. That's not great. While The Outfit and The Kashmir Files at least made the top 10. Sandra Oh, not so lucky. I love Sandra Oh, but with everyone agreeing that the final season of Killing Eve is pretty bad, I stopped watching it, and it's hard for me to stop watching a show. She's got to be careful not to be overexposed and also to make sure she delivers consistent quality. That's what makes a star when you're reliable for people to purchase a ticket to or click on. She does have Turning Red, though, and I'm very eager to see how that does when it hits the Nielsen charts. It's Disney Plus claims it's at the top of trending, but, we never know for sure until we see those Nielsen charts. As for Nielsen, the week of February 14th, Inventing Anna, having just debuted the week before, is a juggernaut, way ahead of all the other series in terms of watch time with just 9 episodes. Remember, Nielsen counts all previous seasons as watch time. Amazon, because Inventing Anna is a new show. Amazon has 2 series in the top 10. Reacher, also a new show, holding up very nicely in week 3 now. While it's great to see the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, who put Amazon on the map in the first place, still competitive with the launch of season 4. Wildly uneven season. The 7th episode was one of the best hours of TV I ever saw. The finale of season 4, awful. So annoying. But I still love the show. I think that they had a great release pattern of 2 episodes every Friday, which kind of gave you a movie. I think that's a great way to go. And hey, look at that. The Book of Boba Fett, still in the top 10, even though it wrapped up last week. So some binging is going on there. Some binging is happening. And I can't believe Space Force is still in the top 10, so maybe we will get a season 3. As for movies, Encanto, still a huge sensation, months after it hit Disney Plus for Christmas. This was a Christmas release. No other movie still even can come close. Disney Plus just doubled down by releasing a sing-along version this weekend, which is a separate track, so we'll see when that hits the Nielsen charts if they're both still very high up. Because it's not a subtitle option on the original release. It's a separate release. Very clever, Disney. Very clever. Netflix has got to be a wee bit disappointed that new movies Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Tall Girl 2 debuted to just middling numbers in the middle of the pack. As for now, I'm sure every streaming service is saying, get me an Encanto. And you're like, but Encanto was made for theaters. That's kind of what makes it so special. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, I gotta give credit where credit is due. First Moana, now Encanto. He's up there with the Lopez's for Frozen in terms of creating movies that, everybody, but especially children, just want to watch on a loop. He's like the Pied Piper of little kids. All right. As for Netflix's own charts, running just a week behind, The Adam Project is yet another huge debut for the streamer, proving that movie stars are worth the investment for Netflix. And Shrek, coming back to Netflix after a very long time, is a very welcome return, indeed. And it goes to show that, Netflix is still the Coke of streaming. And when really popular movies from other studios come up here at no extra cost, everything on Netflix is no extra cost for now. The movies do very well. As for TV shows on Netflix, Toni Collette's latest series rises to number 1 after being, I think number 3 or 4 last week. While Inventing Anna is still going very strong in its 5th week, giving Shonda Rhimes another huge win for Netflix as she gets ready to bring back Bridgerton. More on that in a moment. But first on iTunes, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home, number 1. We'll see for how many weeks. And people are still getting ready for the Oscars, which are a week from today. Be sure to join me. I'll be live tweeting, watching many of the nominees. While The Matrix popped back into the top 10 because it's now available to rent for what I think is an appropriate price point for the quality of that movie. As for this coming week, The Lost City debuts in theaters after its sneak peeks on Saturday, which it's being reported by the trades, 2/3 of them sold out. So that's pretty good. We'll see what happens with Omicron. Are you going to see The Lost City in theaters, or are you going to wait to stream it? Again, that's Paramount, so it'll go to Paramount Plus eventually. And also Michelle Yeoh, I think they have a 45-day window as well. And Michelle Yeoh's new Everything, Everywhere, All at Once also hits theaters, but I believe that, that's A24. I think that's A24. So we'll see where that goes for streaming. I think that seems to me like more of a streaming kind of movie, but you never know. It was a big hit at South by Southwest. As for streaming, Thursday sees the debut of Halo on speaking of Paramount Plus. We'll see what all of you think. And I told you it was not anything like the series, and the showrunner actually had a quote that Variety put out, as some of you sent to me, which said that they didn't even pay attention to the show, to the game for some reason when making the show. But anyway, so at the very least, it'll be fun on Thursday with everybody dragging it on Twitter. And then the new season of, they better hope they get dragged. If they don't even get dragged, that's going to be really bad. And then the new season of Atlanta starts on FX. Then on Friday, Apple TV has its new original drama that they ordered themselves, Pachinko. And yes, Bridgerton returns. Can the sensation still thrive without Regé-Jean Page? They tried so hard to get him back, even for a guest spot. And he said, no, thank you. I'm moving on to movies. He hasn't had any come out yet, but we'll see how that works for both of them. All right, so that's this week's. Do you think Regé-Jean Page should have stuck around? Maybe it was too quick to leave. Although, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough call. He got so many movie deals. I think at the end of the day, he made the right call. All right, so that's this week's movie math. Do you still think the Batman will reach $1 billion? Maybe you never did, and you'll be like, I told you. And if you don't think it's going to reach it, who's to blame? Be nice and realistic, Snyderverse fans. It's a very good movie. It has very good audience and critic scores. Also, what have you been watching and what do you plan to watch? Share all that down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.